Hello and welcome to Lesson 8 of B.4, the Urbanization Unit. I'm Katie Easton, a high school science teacher using OpenSciEd. In this video, I will give you an overview of Lesson 8 and wrap up with some tips and tricks. Lesson 8 is important because students start to make connections between fragmentation and lower genetic diversity. I struggled the first time with the fragmentation lab, so stay tuned for some tips and tricks to help with lab setup. First, let's recap how we got to Lesson 8. During Lesson 7, we learned about Florida panthers and how their genetic diversity and fitness levels are low, even though they have adapted well to urbanization. We figure out that our model can't explain this phenomena we're seeing in the panthers. We then learn about Buckeye, Arizona, and the mountain lions in the area through a visual inquiry activity. We learn that cities can plan systems and prevent harm to non-human population as they grow and expand. This leads us to wonder how fragmentation of these non-human populations can affect their genetics and fitness levels so much as to warrant city planning to protect non-human populations. Let's take a look at the highlights of Lesson 8. Lesson 8 takes two 45-minute days. The 20 minutes of material preparation listed here is to prepare copies for the Fragmentation Lab worksheet and prep the baggies of pony beads if you don't have access to an OpenSciEd kit. The first time organizing and dividing up the colored pony beads may take longer than the 20 minutes. Students will not need to use their individual devices unless you prefer to have students fill out the investigation worksheet digitally or have your driving question board digitally created from Lesson 1. I post worksheets for student use on our learning management system, Canvas, and utilize Padlet for digital DQBs. There are three big chunks to this lesson. Let's discuss what's happening in each. The first lesson chunk is explored on day 1. In this lesson chunk, students are introduced to a hands-on activity to explain how the Florida Panthers' fitness levels lowered after fragmentation of the population. After a hands-on investigation using pony beads and discussion, we figure out that fragmentation can create smaller isolated groups and that these fragmented groups can become less fit if they lose individuals with alleles that provide a selective advantage. This leads us to our next sense-making loop when we introduce selective pressures into our pony bead model. The second lesson chunk occurs on day 1 and 2. Students end day 1 with an exit ticket suggesting possible selection pressures. They are introduced to 4 selection pressures and rules that govern those selection pressures in our pony bead model. Through this section of the hands-on investigation, students figure out that selection pressures and random chance can cause loss of allelic diversity in populations. This leads us to our final sense-making loop where we connect fragmentation to lower genetic diversity. The final chunk of the lesson occurs on day 2. In this making sense loop, we compare and discuss our findings from the fragmentation investigation. Students figure out that if a population loses genetic diversity, they cannot always adapt to a changing environment. At the end of the lesson, we begin to wonder how can we connect this information to areas that are exposing urbanization. So in summary, on day 1 of Lesson 8, students figure out that fragmentation can create smaller, isolated populations that can become less fit if they lose individuals with alleles that provide a selective advantage. On day 2, students learn about selection pressures and figure out that selection pressures and random chance can cause loss of allelic diversity in populations. We also figure out that these fragmented populations lose genetic diversity. They cannot always adapt to a changing environment. Let's take a look at the key moments in Lesson 8. One of the key moments of Lesson 8 is the discussion that arises when comparing starting frequencies after the first round of fragmented data collection. This occurs when selection pressures are introduced into our investigation. During this discussion, students identify that changes to allele frequencies between groups represented the fragmented panther populations and that random chance caused these changes. Understanding these key ideas helps students to begin to question why our current model of natural selection doesn't explain the lower fitness of the Florida panthers. Another key moment that occurs in Lesson 8 is the discussion that arises as we look at data from our first generations. These discussions help students to understand that selection pressures can lead to changes in allele frequencies over time. By graphing our data, we can more easily see the changes in allele frequencies. In my class, I do not force the students into one form of graph. I allow them to use any type of graph that helps them visualize the data for themselves. I usually see the line graphs like the one pictured, but I do sometimes see bar graphs, which is completely acceptable. Visualizing the data in this manner can help students start to piece together the idea that a change in allele frequency could lead to lower fitness if the selection pressure arises that affects populations with a certain allele. Another key moment in Lesson 8 is Part 7. This is a short paragraph in the teacher edition, but much more information can be found in the slide deck. This part starts off with students picking from a list of 4 selection pressures, but the real important area is the discussion governing fitness for the selection pressures. The model instructions or key document is super helpful to support this part of the lesson. I take more than the time that's suggested 5 minutes on this section so that students really understand the rules and what the rules mean. More in tips and tricks about this section, but the goal is for the students to begin to understand the link between allele frequency and lower fitness. Part 10 of Lesson 8 is probably the most important key moment of the lesson. This is a discussion when everything is pulled together to make sure students come to the understanding that fragmented populations become less fit if they lose individuals with alleles that provide a selective advantage. These selection pressures and random chance can cause loss of allelic diversity in populations, and if those populations lose that genetic diversity, they cannot always adapt to a changing environment. At the end of Lesson 8, we add to our new understandings to our progress trackers and ask questions about what we could do to prevent the loss of genetic diversity in non-human populations. Discussing these questions we still have about prevention leads us to Lesson 9 when we discover ways in which urban areas are planning and developing ways to protect genetic diversity in non-human populations. Let's talk about some helpful strategies for Lesson 8. Lesson 8 has a 2-day lab with many materials for students. I have 2 sections of biology and 6 table groups each, hence 12 Tupperwares of 120 colored beads. I used different colored beads for each section, but had blue and pink in both, and labeled them A and B. 7 Tupperwares for Section A colors and 7 Tupperwares with Section B colors. This gives us an extra Tupperware that has the starting population of beads for comparison for each section throughout the lab. At the end of the lab, have the students count the 20 of the original 6 colors of beads for their section to prep the Tupperware for the following year. The fragmentation lab can be a little tricky your first time. The model instruction or key document and the slide deck are a huge help. It helps students immensely to do the first generation together. I hand out the beads and dye to each group and tell them to follow along with me as I read and perform the directions for day 1 of the lab. I hold the Tupperware of beads above my head and randomly pull out 12 beads, 2 at a time. As I pick out each pair of beads, I draw them with their colors on my smartboard so the students do the same on their scratch paper with markers. I then show them how to randomly pair up the panthers to create 3 Punnett squares. We talk about rules and the model and how to roll the die and fill out the day 2 table when we get to that part. It takes a little longer to model every step, but the students understand the process much better and are more confident to finish it on their own. In Lesson 8, we revise our definition of fitness to incorporate allele frequency. We also discuss gene pool or genetic diversity and allele frequency. In Lesson 8, we utilize our class consensus model of natural selection developed in previous lessons, but we do not make any changes yet. We do not create any new posters or materials in this lesson. Well, this is Lesson 8 in a nutshell. I hope you find this helpful and join us again for Lesson 9 of the Urbanization Unit, where students are introduced to wildlife corridors and as a means to protect the genetic diversity of non-human populations. Thank you.